All right, y'all. Today I'm going to be ranking my top 10 WWE Hall of Famers. I'm going to only be selecting candidates from the WWE Hall of Fame, those who have been inducted. So it's not a full list of my favorite wrestlers or whatnot. There's a lot of guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame that would probably be on my top 10 list. Guys like Cena, Lesnar. The Rock is not in the Hall of Fame, surprisingly. He says he's going to be inducted when he retires eventually. So, hey, maybe that means more Rock for us. So I've composed a list of who I believe are the top 10 Hall of Famers, in my opinion, who I like the best, who I enjoyed watching as my years as a wrestling fan. But we'll get right into it. A lot of different guys to choose from. Some interesting people in the Hall of Fame. Maybe I'll do a video talking about the more unusual Hall of Famers in the WWE. But we'll get right into it. Some honorable mentions. I put Andre the Giant, Macho Man, Dusty Rhodes, Bret Hart. A lot of the older guys. Andre being the first ever inductee. I decided to include him as an honorable mention, but these guys I never saw wrestle. They're a little bit before my time, actually quite a bit before my time, so didn't really get to enjoy their careers like someone who was growing up watching wrestling in the 80s. So honorable mention for them, nothing against them. If they're in your top 10, great. Just not in mine, didn't get to see enough of them. But we'll go right on to number 10. And number 10, I am going to pick an older one. Thought about putting him in honorable mentions, but I figured I'd seen a little bit enough in one of my favorite WrestleMania matches featured this wrestler, and that's Hulk Hogan. Actually taken out of the Hall of Fame for some comments and some choices he made in life, but then brought back into the Hall of Fame. So I like Hulk Hogan. I think he's fun in ring. He did so much for the wrestling and the WWE in general that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I like his mannerisms. His in-ring work is not the best. I won't ever say that. But he can definitely get a crowd amped that night in WrestleMania in Toronto against The Rock. One of my favorite matches. Just absolutely crazy how the crowd reacted to all that. So, number 10, Hulk Hogan. Number 9, we're going to go with a recent entry as of this year, 2023, and that is Rey Mysterio. I've always liked Rey, the underdog. He's a little guy, flies around the ring, the high-flying lucha libre style of wrestling. So Rey is one of my... I like seeing him grow up. Like seeing him when I was growing up. I guess he was growing up as well. But, so yeah, definitely Rey. A lot of good matches of his. I like his match with our next candidate, Eddie Guerrero, for the custody of Dominic Mysterio. That's always one that made me laugh. Even now, I'll go back and watch that one. So yeah, Rey Mysterio, number 9. Number 8, I just spoiled it. We're going to go with Eddie Guerrero. The late Eddie Guerrero unfortunately passed away from a heart attack, I believe in 2006 or 5. I'm not 100% sure. But I lie, I cheat, I steal. Latino Heat. He was just cool. He came out in the low rider that bounced or did whatever that's called, hydraulics. So Eddie was one of my favorites. A lot of great matches. I put him above Rey because I think he's better in ring and better on the mic. Rey had a good character, but Eddie was, I think, a league ahead of Rey for sure. So number 8, Eddie Guerrero. Number 7, this is going to be Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist in wrestling in the 96 Olympics, and then would come to the WWE or WWF at the time and click like that. One of the best to ever do it, I think, in ring. Also funny on the mic, was a good heel, and a kind of a likable but hateable heel at the same time. Really funny. His matches were always stellar. Even when he had broken necks, all the different times he's had that. I just watched his documentary on Peacock, Angle. Definitely recommend that. It's really good to see how his career and life have unfolded. But some of my favorite matches involve Kurt Angle. The one at WrestleMania 21 between him and Brock Lesnar. Out of this world with the broken neck, and then Brock botching the Um, the moonsault off the top rope was crazy, but definitely Kurt Angle's one of my favorites. I love his theme song, the "You Suck," with everyone cheering that as he comes in. The ankle lock, the angle slam. He used to take crazy shots. Love Kurt Angle, so he's gonna be my number 7. Number 6 for me is Edge. I loved Edge growing up. I kind of liked the rock style he had and the rated R superstar. I remember the celebration he had with Lita following his cash in of the Money in the Bank on John Cena, where he's a little more risque and they've got the bed in the ring. I remember seeing that as a child, pretty much, and my parents getting all upset about that. But so it kind of exposed me to some of that stuff early, but it was hilarious. A lot of great matches from Edge. Even his most recent match against Sheamus on SmackDown was awesome in Toronto. Yeah, it's Toronto, right? Just a killer match. A lot of great matches over the years against a lot of the other greats as well. And a great tag team guy as well with Christian, and those matches with the Hardys and the spear off the top of the ladder to Jeff. Just a lot of crazy moments from Edge. So Edge will always have a place in my top 10 for this. Number 5 might seem a little low, but or high, I guess. Stone Cold Steve Austin. He would probably be higher if I was a bit older. I only got to see the tail end of his career because of my age, but it was always exciting when Stone Cold would come back and make appearances throughout the Ruthless Aggression era and even in the PG era. And today, and like his match with Kevin Owens 2 years ago or a year ago at WrestleMania in Texas, and the crowd into it, and Texas versus Canada, and him smashing his beers. And if you haven't tried his beer, it's pretty good. El Segundo. I've tried the IPA and the regular one. They're both pretty good beers, so if you're into that. But Stone Cold, the stunner, the amount of people he stunned and funny ones, from Linda McMahon to Donald Trump. No one's safe from a stunner. Always brought great energy. The beer truck with the hose. A lot of fun. And one of the best rivalries of all time against Vince McMahon for sure. So I think Stone Cold, I get him putting him at number 1. But for me, I just didn't get to see enough of his prime career to move him any higher. I say that, but my number 4 is Ric Flair, who, mainly did a lot of his wrestling in the 70s and 80s. So I got to see his twilight years, but like I said in the other video, I just love Ric Flair on the mic, his mannerisms, his attitude. There's no one as fun to watch get beat up as Ric Flair. The way he sells it, and dying on the mat, and takes his chops and gives chops himself. I love Ric Flair, the woo, the woo off that he's had in the past with Jay Lethal over in TNA. That was fun. So I love Ric Flair. I like his great in the ring, fantastic on the mic. No one cut a promo like him. It was out of control, some of the promos. If you ever want to watch a crazy nuts promo, go watch him calling out Eric Bischoff on, I think, WCW Nitro, and he handcuffs himself to the ring, and he's in his underwear, and he's screaming and yelling. It's fantastic. So yeah, again, missed a lot of his career, but the tail end I got to see with him in Evolution and kind of bringing up the next generation until his eventual retirement match with Shawn Michaels are some of my favorites. So yeah, going on to number 3. 2 and 3 were like this close for me. I put one over the other just for maybe my own personal preference, but 3 is going to be Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania. Probably the best in-ring worker of all time. Debatable, sure, but one of my favorites. Never really disappointed, unless we're talking about that Saudi match a couple years ago with a couple others on this list. But yeah, I love Shawn Michaels. Great in ring, a good heel, a good face. The only thing that I kept him at 3 instead of going higher was the time in his career where there were gaps with injury and whatnot. So he wasn't around for some time and then came back in the 2000s. And he also never won a title, the world title again, during his second run, which is interesting. So I think that holds him back a little bit. But sweet chin music. Love him tuning up the band. Again, he retired Ric Flair like we saw at WrestleMania 24. One of my favorites for sure. Definitely deserves his place in the Hall of Fame. And number 2, his D-Generation X tag partner is Triple H. And I love Triple H. I've always liked him. Even when he was a heel, I always just like, this guy's kind of he's a badass, right? He comes out with his Motorhead song and whatnot, and comes to the ring and does the water and the eye in the game and his promos like that. I loved it. Great heel for all those years. Yeah, people say he buried a lot of people, but I mean, so has a lot of the greats have buried a lot of people. And just how his character evolved from Hunter Hearst Helmsley in the fancy prissy whatever Connecticut character that he had to this badass who just annihilates everybody and is like a Viking, and then he came out as like the Terminator at one of the WrestleManias. And a great heel too, even as he got older, with feuds against like Daniel Bryan, The Shield, when he had the authority and he had that power. And now even today, he's now in charge of creative. So I think that helps push him past the rest of the pack. It's just the impact Triple H has had from way back in the day, climbing the ranks, marrying the boss's daughter, into now being in charge of, well, the WWE of the future. And number 1, no one other than the Phenom, The Undertaker, the Dead Man. The Undertaker had to be number 1. I think that his career is probably the most complete wrestling career, just from he hasn't done a lot behind the scenes like say Triple H has, but just the streak, all those WrestleMania matches. Yeah, the early ones aren't great if you go back and watch them. The Giant Gonzalez one's an abomination, but there are other WrestleMania matches he had that are 5 stars easily. Shawn Michaels, I think both times. Triple H, the second and third time. The one in the steel cage is one of my favorites. His match with Edge, with Batista, who also is not in the Hall of Fame, surprisingly. But just a lot of great matches, a lot of memories. As a kid, this idea that there was some supernatural being that could appear in the ring like that and choke slam and tombstone pile drive up people, and didn't talk much and did his little thing like that. Just a lot of fun. A lot of great matches. Even when he lost the streak, I mean, I love Brock Lesnar, and I think that Brock should have been the one to end the streak. I mean, I don't know if should have, but I didn't mind that he did. Maybe we'll talk about that in a different video. But yeah, The Undertaker undoubtedly is, I think, the GOAT. Just from how well he stayed up, how well he went through all the different eras, and he was around from the golden age all the way to, heck, the pandemic. He was wrestling in the Boneyard match against AJ. So The Undertaker is my number 1 Hall of Famer of all time for the WWE. Go ahead and drop whoever you think is your top 10, whoever your favorite is in the Hall of Fame. Comment, subscribe if you'd like, and yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Thank you.